Hi, welcome to Cosmic Comics. The final chapter of this story arc takes place in Avengers issue 71. The issue opens with the Black Knight rushing to light the brazier of truth. He calls upon his ancestor who first wore the Black Knight's armor. The Black Knight is trying to get his ebony blade back. It disappeared with Goliath after the Black Knight interfered with the Grandmaster's game with King for the fate of the Earth, wherein the Avengers are being used as pawns. His ancestor doesn't seem all too happy about getting called about the matter at hand and calls Dane Whitman impatient beyond measure. All the same, his ancestor shows Dane the information he seeks. The next 2 pages continue the recap of the previous 2 issues. Finally, we move on to the endgame. The Grandmaster has transported the remaining Avengers to German-occupied France during World War II. And within 2 panels, they're fighting Nazis. And 2 panels later, they're being attacked by 1940s versions of superheroes who think that they are the Nazis. Alright, it looks like the real battle is about to get away. I am so stoked. And we're back at the Black Knight. How can one singular character be so boring? How does he find a way to get reunited with his black blade across space and time? Oh, turns out that all he has to do is think about his sword real hard. You didn't need to go see your ancestor for that. I could have maybe given all the exposition at the beginning of this issue a pass if it tied into the story in some meaningful manner, but it doesn't. The Black Knight doesn't learn anything from his ancestor that'll help him find the blade. He just decides to think about it real hard, and because the 2 of them are one, boom, there he is. But even when the Black Knight does arrive in the future, he doesn't arrive next to his blade. He can be pulled thousands of years into the future, and who knows how many thousands upon thousands of miles away, but he couldn't home in on the last 100 feet or so? That's about 30 meters for the rest of the world. It's a good thing he magically appeared on the floor, too, and didn't show up stuck in some type of machinery. It just doesn't make sense. Oh well, because comics. The Black Knight sees his blade on the floor and it immediately is attacked by 2 of King's guards. These 2 prove to be as much of a challenge as King's guards were for the Avengers in the first part of this story arc. Too bad King didn't save that horde of guards, for now they probably would have taken down the Black Knight with their sheer numbers alone. This story just doesn't make any sense at all unless we accept that King is nothing more than a blundering fool, which hardly seems likely when one considers his vast number of accomplishments. The Black Knight hears a woman calling, and since I gather he couldn't find a door, he decides to use his sword to beat his way through a wall. Yeah. The Black Knight and the Wasp then both decide that it's a good idea to try and interfere with the game. Why? Why would you think that that's a good idea when the last time you pulled that stunt, you cost Goliath a potential win? By screwing with this game, you could easily forfeit the entire Earth. This is across the board a resoundingly bad idea. We switch over to the final battle, already in motion. Black Panther reflects on the craziness of their situation while Hank Pym tries to convince Namor that they are not Nazis. Namor responds with violence. Hank shrinks and sends hundreds of bees to their death by commanding them to sting Namor. Meanwhile, 2 androids face off against each other. The Human Torch boasts that Vision's heat rays are ineffective. The Vision then does some showing off by demonstrating that the Human Torch can't touch him. As the torch passes through the Vision, he tries to remember how and why they are here, and just while we're here, why the hell would Vision try to attack the Human Torch with heat ray vision? I'm just gonna drop it. The Black Panther realizes that they can't afford to let these heroes discover the truth because in order to win, they need to defeat them. Any Captain America fan is sure to love this panel as Captain America is struck with the novel idea of getting a circular shield. Hank and T'Challa have both reached the same conclusion about having to finish the heroes off for a win. But if that's the case, why didn't Hank press his attack on Namor? Instead, he's allowed Namor to get in the water, as we can see in the background, essentially a giant health potion for the Submariner. For that matter, why didn't Captain America continue to press his attack against the Black Panther instead of giving these two time to have a conversation on the side? None of this is making any sense. Namor and Captain America dive in to attack, but both miss their mark. The Avengers run away down the street. Mind you, this is right after T'Challa said that they needed to stop fighting defensively, but it appears that he might have a plan involving the Vision, and somehow the Vision immediately knows that he's needed. He breaks off from his fight with the Human Torch. The Avengers are trapped in a side street, and the heroes of the 1940s are closing in. This is when T'Challa calls his plan into action and asks Vision to partially materialize within each of their foes. Once again, this is so weak. Vision didn't need to line them up to do this. He could have picked off one of them, and there's a good chance that the other two would have fallen in line and given up. He could have pulled this trick at any point while fighting against the Human Torch. It's a nice gimmick and all, but there is inadequate setup for this punch. I'm not saying that it's not a valid way to defeat these guys, but we as the reader deserve a better setup if this is what we're going to lead to as the end of this story. Not to mention, Vision just single-handedly took down Captain America, Namor, and the original Human Torch almost as an afterthought. I mean, wow. The Avengers, they celebrate their victory. Meanwhile, King also claims his victory in the Game of Galaxies, while the Grandmaster wonders if they both shall profit from this game, or only one of them. Curious indeed. The Grandmaster then pulls another bullshit middle-of-the-game rule change and hallmark of poor writing and informs King he will only receive half of his prize, since the first round ended in a stalemate. Anyways, King is given the choice between the power of life or death instead of life and death. Once again, King insists that all of this was for the return of his love, Ravonna, but before he can finish saying that he chooses the power of life, the Avengers burst into the room. But they agree to call things even in return for a free trip home. Amazingly, King can't wrap his head around that and says there's no way he's going to let them escape. Then the truth comes out. King despises the name Avengers more than he loves Ravonna. Harsh. So very harsh. Like a spoiled child, King demands both the power of life and death so that he can have his cake and eat it too. But the Grandmaster insists that he can choose only one. King puts off saving his love Ravonna for the power of death over the Avengers. Interestingly, the Grandmaster claims this power is his only to give for a brief moment, and warns King that he must use it quickly or he himself will perish. King finally has his moment of triumph before him. Captain America and the Black Panther decide to charge, which, under the circumstances, seems like a horrible idea. Captain America informs the Black Panther that the Grandmaster bestows more power than the Cosmic Cube. This may be true. I haven't sat down to compare notes or anything, but how would Captain America know this? He's only recently met the Grandmaster and been fighting her unconscious for a huge chunk of that time. Kang, who moments ago claimed he wanted nothing more in the world than the death of the Avengers, passes up the opportunity by painfully repulsing Captain America and the Black Panther instead of just killing them. Not buying it. Not for a minute. Thor attacks with his hammer with expected results. And finally, Kang presses the attack. He's got his chance to destroy all the Avengers once and for all. Okay, I thought that this would be a little bit more instantaneous. Instead of killing the Avengers, King leaves them in a almost dead state. And then King implies that death leads to oblivion. I don't want to get caught up on this, but that's just not how things work in the Marvel Universe. Those are two completely different concepts and entities, and suddenly King is called out, and he's shocked to find that the Black Knight was not brought down by his bombardment of almost death. The Black Knight strikes at King with the flat of his ebony blade and brings King down in a single stroke. The Black Knight is shocked that he brought King down so easily, and he asks the Grandmaster, how could that be? Instead of answering the Black Knight's question, the Grandmaster informs him that King was given supreme power over the Avengers. Hold up, hold up, hold up. That was not the bet that was on the table, and that's not the power that King bargained for. This entire arc has been a shit show of bad writing, but this last issue, they are just tearing it up. Oh, and in the end, the victory over King came down to a play of words that only made sense after the Grandmaster changed the game's prize and rules. Lovely, lovely, just freaking lovely. And if you miss it, it's just because the Black Knight was not an Avenger is the only reason why King's powers didn't affect him. 3 comics to come down to a story that wraps up with fucking wordplay. That is just ridiculous. The Grandmaster takes his leave, telling the Avengers to take pity on King, whose heart was filled with more hate than love. Hank is ready to go home, but T'Challa has other plans first. Thor is in agreement, and everybody is happy to welcome the Black Knight a place amongst the Avengers. The Black Knight readily accepts their invitation to join. The final page is a wonderfully iconic image of the Avengers calling out to assemble. There you have it, the entire first story arc with the Grandmaster, the first appearance of Squadron Sinister and their individual origin stories. I will visit all of these characters again in future videos. Feel free to hit any of the buttons below. I'm out.